And we're back on Political Connection. So while there's a lot going on in Tallahassee with the legislative session, right, there's also so much happening, of course, always in Washington, D.C. these days. Joining us now, Congressman Darren Soto, U.S. House District 9. As always, thank you for being on the show. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the deal to provide funding to secure the border and foreign aid to Ukraine. What are you hearing about where that stands right now?
Well, the border deal is on life support. We did see the Senate pass aid to help replenish our defense stock to defend the nation, also to fund equipment for Ukraine, for Israel, and for Taiwan. That recently passed the Senate. The Speaker has given it a chilly reception so far. But if we're going to be defending democracy, both at home and abroad, we need to get this done.
This is not the first, time Congress, let's be honest here, has tried to do a southern border and immigration overhaul. Is the D.C. mentality, you think, that it's more important to complain about an issue and keep it an election issue rather than actually fixing the issue?
Well, for we Democrats, we're putting people over politics. We believe that a deal should be struck. There were 4 months of negotiations in a bipartisan manner in the Senate to both increase resources at the border, since we have a larger influx of folks trying to get into the country, as well as more judges to help process asylum claims and improve the number of family visas, while protecting key programs like parole and TPS that are helping so many Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans here in Florida. And so we were ready to make the deal, and then former President Trump deep-sixed it, and a lot of Republicans have followed suit. So that was not in the package that ultimately passed the Senate just this last week.
Let me ask you about the word crisis, because I hear over and over some Democrats just, coming out on the record saying it is a crisis. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. We're seeing a larger number of people trying to cross the border than we have in a long time. A lot of it has to do with the collapse of Venezuela, a country with millions and millions of people who have now scattered throughout South America, Central America, and to North America. Obviously, we also see Haiti has destabilized and have a lot of folks coming from there.
And people from China. I've seen published reports that people who are crossing the border illegally through the southern border, but they're actually from China originally.
Absolutely. And so this is why President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas has asked us for more funds to be able to handle the resources that are needed to protect the southern border and process things in an orderly manner. And that's why those negotiations went on. And the Republicans have been screaming border security, border security, border security. And then suddenly when President Trump says, well, that's not going to be good for me politically, they welch on the deal. And, there are real consequences. DHS is running in a shortfall. They may have to release tens of thousands of immigrants in their care right now because they don't have enough money. And meanwhile, rather than the House and the Senate coming together in a bipartisan fashion to pass this border deal, we see them with a sham impeachment. So it really is a shame. But we Democrats stand ready, willing, and able to get this deal done should the Republicans come around on the issue.
Let's talk about Ukraine. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the interview, but I want to go back to that. It seems impossible to think that some members of Congress appear to be on the side of Russia and Putin.
Yeah, well, we know this was the first invasion of Europe since World War II. This is a democracy that is right on the front lines with Russia. And we've already helped them quite a bit over the last couple of years, as well as Europe. And this is where we have to make a stand, whether it's the terrain, whether it is the resources and the brave courage of the Ukrainian army. This is where we need to hold a stand against Russia. And so I'm very supportive of this funding. And keep in mind, most of the funding is going to remain in the United States. It's going to go to defense contractors, including those in Central Florida, making things like javelins and helicopters and other equipment. And it's going to replenish both our defense stock so we could continue to press to defend the homeland, as well as fund the brave soldiers in Ukraine. If Ukraine falls, then NATO countries we are obligated to go to war for are next. And that's why it's so critical that we fight through Ukraine on their own turf rather than being forced into essentially what would be a World War III situation.
Congressman Darren Soto, U.S. House District 9, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
And that's all the time that we have for tonight's show. I'm Yvette Broussard.
And I'm Greg Angel. Join us here Monday night with another edition of Political Connections live at 7 p.m. Until then, for myself and all of us here, have a great weekend.